Good morning. Welcome back, Facebook fam.
We're glad you're with us, and we're back with Sue
and Dave with Life Source Coaches.
And today we are talking about tip number 5.
Shift. And tip number 5 is shift what we see. Shift what we see. The problem in conflict, especially in the midst of quarantine, is that we tend to get reactive. Our focus shifts away from dealing with the issue at hand and onto one another. We can get reactive, and it's about what we see and focus on. And when we're reactive or defensive, we tend to focus on each other rather than focus on the issue that needs to be resolved. So I had this little epiphany, I think God kind of inspired me this morning as I look at the word reactive. What you see, the C is in the middle of all these things going on. And what we want to do is shift what we see from the middle of everything up front so that reactive shifts and changes to creative.
So if that's not clear, I don't know, but the word reactive, you literally take the C out of the word react and you put it in front, making the word creative, which I thought was kind of a fun one. I go, is that really true? Does that really, it works. I'm like, wow, that works.
Write that out, spell that out.
Right. So when we say tip number 5, it's taking, shifting what we see. The
letter C as a figure of what we focus on, what we actually see. And so as we shift that perspective, the resolution becomes the creative or the collaborative process, leaving that C up front. And that's what helps us deal with the conflict and resolve that and reconcile from the reactiveness and the defensiveness that occurs in the midst of conflict.
Right. And one of the ways we do that, and part of the tip for today, is to share your wants and desires. But instead of sharing our wants and desires, what we want from the person, we want to share our wants and desires, what we want for the person. Mm-hmm. And that, again, is one word difference. You actually take the R, move the R around, but it shifts everything. When we start to share what we want for our partner, what we want for the relationship, what we want for ourselves, this shifts everything, because oftentimes we are on the same page. We oftentimes do want the same things.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday a little bit about intent. Mm-hmm. And usually our intentions are good and for the positive and better. And that's a difficulty in conflict, is that when we focus on ourselves, our story becomes very narrow and self-centered. But as we shift our focus and look at our intents in a positive way, and so that's one of the things that this whole process is shifting to, what do I want for the relationship? What are my desires for you, for me, for us? That puts things in a positive light. And a lot of times we start out trying to resolve the issue with our experience, thoughts, and desires in our story. But it may be more helpful to back up and begin, if you're finding difficulty with that, and say, okay, what do we really want?
Right. I find when situations are really heated, sharing what we want for is like you said, a great place to start, because it diffuses and it really takes you or me out of the equation and puts us on the same page. Instead of shooting at each other, we really are more able to shoot at the problem when we share what we want for.
And part of this is taking responsibility. Usually in conflict, we try to put the responsibility onto somebody else, where we get manipulative or controlling or persuading.
We may not try, but it kind of happens anyway.
Yeah, kind of naturally things start to degress instead of progress. And so we want to say, okay, how do I change this conversation from kind of a parent-child situation or a blame or shame situation to say, okay, what am I responsible for? And I need to look and say, what do I want? What's healthy for me? What's healthy for you? What's healthy for us? And so there's personal responsibility there. And part of that is just being honest with ourselves, to take the time to push the button and vulnerably take the courage to say, okay, what do I want? And as I am able to share my responsibility in this, and what I want for me, for you, for us, that's healthy for me as well as it is for each other.
That's right. And some examples of that would be like when we're having a conflict. I want to honor you. I want you to feel respected when you're in life. However, even if it's a kitchen example, it may not be, the superficial issue might be how we keep the cupboards. But the deeper issues are really core needs, oftentimes, like respect and honor and the triggers.
The distinction between for and from. From statements tend to be action-oriented, doing-oriented, as you started to mention that those below-the-line things. The once for talks about more of our beings and our emotions. And it's okay to start out with, because it's easy to identify what I don't want. But one of the shifts here to creative is saying, what do I do want? So you may want to start out saying, I don't want us to argue, but I do want us to be in harmony.
Right. And I want us to creatively have win-win solutions. And we both want that, right?
Right. Part of what I want for Sue is for her not to feel blamed or shamed, which means I want for me to be constructive and encouraging rather than critical.
Right. Good examples.
It's okay to pursue that harmony and share those kinds of things. And we want to take our time in a speaker listener to say, okay, who has the speaker hat on here?
Right.
And, okay, here's what I want for me. Here's what I want for you. Here's what I want for us. And then push the pause button, let the listener kind of summarize and give back what they need.
Right.
And then for you to come back and say, what do you want for you, for me, for us in this situation?
Right. So think about that. We're shifting the C from reactive to creative. We are sharing our desires and our wants for the relationship, for me, for you, for us, and even sometimes for others. So again, puts us on the same page.
Yeah, it's disclosing wants. It eliminates hidden agendas. It doesn't guarantee that we'll get everything that we want. But it puts them on the table to discuss. And as I'm able to share my wants and desires for me, you, and each other, it creates intimacy.
Right. Yeah. One other want might be the benefit is that it builds relationship by acknowledging each other's desires and wants. Now, there's a couple different kinds of wants. Dave mentioned those before. What do we want to be? How do we want to be? How do we want to show up? I want to be healthy. I want to be honest. I want to be respected. I want for you, for me, that's what I want. For you, I want to love you well. I want to honor you well. So that's to be. There may be some to-dos for you. What might I do for you? So I will try to be aware with having my glasses on when we do the dishes, or I will try to communicate.
Right. I'll take pause before I react to one of our listeners point out, maybe it takes time to push the time out and journal a little bit, become self-aware. What do I want?
Right.
What do I need? And then to be able to share that and say, okay, I want to not react, but I want to respond well. I want to listen well and understand. So that's some of my doing.
Right. And what do I want for you? When I want something for myself, it's usually from my partner. And when I want something for him, it's oftentimes from me or other places. So it kind of, again, switches up the for and the from.
Yeah, so the three types of wants are to be, honesty, respectful, healthy, to do, complete, collaborate, clarify, to have, more quality time together, good friends.
Right, yes, just some examples. So, tip for today is to shift what we see.
From reactive to creative, wants for rather than from. And the best way to discern that and learn what each other's wants and desires are, is a lot of times is called active listening.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So we'll hopefully you'll join us for tip number 6 at our 10 minutes at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And keep those updates and comments coming on Facebook on a post here.
We appreciate it when you share. When you share our posts with others if you find them helpful. Next week, we'll be here again for our workshop, which is going to be on April 28th at 7 p.m. Pacific. And we invite you to join us. We'll have some sign-up links in our comments section or on our website, www.lifesourcecoaches.com.
You guys, blessings on resolving conflict in the midst of this quarantine, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.